So the purpose of my research that I completed throughout the semester was I was curious about integrating technology into the classroom, especially like when it can further um, purposes and kids can learn deeper with that kind of technology. I've experimented. I'm actually this is my first year as a teacher in a small private school, and I've experimented with it a little bit. And I found, at least in my classroom, that technology tends to engage kids, and a lot of times they've got a deeper understanding of things when we use. Technology like laptops and iPads and even digital cameras and things like that. So I wanted to see how much research had been done about technology in the classroom. Um, so I chose this because I actually just took a job a public school, and I was touring the school, and they've got access to a lot of really cool things that I don't have access to, and I just wondered, oh my gosh, like how can I utilize these things? So that's kind of why I chose this topic. So it's something that I was immediately able to apply, and something that's really interesting to me, and that I feel like it's going to be useful um, in the future. When I was doing this, I designed. Of course, we had to do a qualitative and a quantitative study. My qualitative study I sent out to five teachers that I just happen to know in public schools, and I asked them, let's see, four questions. What technologies are you currently incorporating in your classroom? Briefly describe how you use them. How do students typically respond to using these technologies? Cite demeanor, general attitude, engagement. Were any specific procedures, guidelines, or protocols followed for incorporating this technology in your classroom? What, if any, technologies would you like to incorporate in your classroom in the near future? I just sent this out to five teacher friends that I happen to have. Um, and then I got pretty consistent results straight across the board. All the teachers were using tablets or laptops in their classroom. Some of them used them a little bit more than others. Most of them most of them used it for like group projects, multimedia projects, and things like that. All five teachers reported positive shifts in attitude when technology was used in the classroom. They said that students were more engaged, had a more positive demeanor, and even higher grades on assignments that utilized some form of technology. Um, all five teachers reported that their school districts had guidelines for using technology. Only one teacher reported that they had specific procedures or best practices that they had to use when integrating that technology. So when I got into my research, this is an area that I focused on because it seems like there's a lack of common practices when integrating technology into the classroom and how to best utilize that. Because when I was doing this research, there were lots of instances where people were just throwing laptops into assignments just for the sake of using technology, not really to deepen any learning or anything like that. So that's something that I kind of honed in on when I started doing my research paper. All five teachers also said that they'd like to incorporate new technologies in the future, and that's kind of why I jumped on that, because they all planned to incorporate new technologies in the future, but none of them really had a plan. How were they going to incorporate it? How were they going to be sure that it was bolstering what they were trying to do? So then I also had a quantitative study that this one I had a brief survey that I sent out to 10 different teachers that I know in various public schools. For the most part, this quantitative survey backed up a lot of what I got back on the qualitative survey. Um, like almost straight across the board, it pretty much supported it. There were different questions about students' proficiency with different kinds of programs like word processors and things like that. Um, so that gave a little bit different insight there. Um, on this one, I did find that most teachers felt like that the technology that they incorporate supports their curriculum, so that's encouraging. Um, then one of the things that I wanted to know on here is because in some schools they're shifting to complete like digital classrooms to where they're going completely paperless. So I wanted to know in this area, were there any teachers that were willing to do that? And none of the teachers were willing to go all the way that direction. So that was another area I wanted to focus on when I got into my essay, is that of those schools that have gone all in and utilized Google Classroom only or that kind of things, what did that look like? And a lot of the research that I got into suggested that that was kind of that was one of the things that was holding a lot of teachers back, is that they were putting their toes in and sort of like checking out digital technology and things, but most of them weren't sure how to go all in. But the ones that did go all in are finding that kids are learning deeper, and you can get into like things that where there's lots more self-guided learning and that kind of thing. So that was one of the really interesting things that I found out as I started doing this research. Of course, then I got into I was only able to find like two really well researched like best practices when it comes to incorporating technology in the classroom. So I talked a little bit about those, but there's not a whole lot of research out there about what the best way is to incorporate learning in the classroom. Technology in the classroom. Um, the one thing that I guess I kind of pulled away from this is that it can be a really beneficial tool. You've got to make sure that it's supporting the curriculum, but if you're willing to like learn the technology and utilize it, and in a lot of the instances, the people that reported the best successes were teachers that were almost willing to step aside and act as facilitators for like self-guided learning, which is a huge jump, and that's kind of scary, and I think that's probably what's holding a lot of us back. But I think there's probably still a lot of research left to do on the subject. Anyway, there's my findings.